Mimic is a fictional character appearing in comic books published by Marvel Comics. He was briefly a member of the X-Men in the 1960s, and was the first character to be added to the team after the original lineup and the first X-Man who was not a mutant. An alternate reality version of Mimic became a popular member of the Exiles, the reality-hopping team. Publication history: created by writer Stan Lee and artist Werner Roth, he first appeared in X-Men Volume 1 number 19 as a villain. Fictional character biography. Origins. Calvin Rankin was born in Passaic, New Jersey. After an accidental mix-up of chemicals from his father Ronald's experiments, he gained the ability to temporarily copy the skills, physical traits, knowledge, and superpowers of any person within close range, which led people to fear him. When his father found out about this, he retreated with Calvin into a mine where he worked on a machine which, as he claimed, would make the abilities his son absorbed permanent. However, his experiments with the device caused several power outages in the vicinity. In order to hold off the mob which was tracking these disturbances, Ronald Rankin blasted the mine entrance, but he was accidentally caught and killed in the explosion, and his device sealed deep inside the mine. With the X-Men. Taking the name Mimic, Cal decided to seek out the X-Men in a plot to get to the machine and make their powers his permanently, after realizing Beast and Iceman were members once he absorbed their powers. Mimic went to the mansion by tracking Marvel Girl, realizing who she was after gaining telekinetic power. He battled the X-Men, escaped them, but took Marvel Girl hostage. He drove her to a cave, knowing the rest would follow. He tied her hands and left her while he used the optic power of Cyclops to break through the rubble to the machine. The other members freed Marvel Girl and battled Mimic. Initially he gained the upper hand and activated the machine after using Professor X's power to understand how the machine worked, but his powers were removed by Ronald Rankin's device, as Professor X had expected. Xavier then wiped his memory and let him go. It was while attending the same college as Jean Grey that his memory returned. In another attempt to gain the X-Men's abilities, Mimic set his sights on joining their ranks, becoming deputy leader in the process when he blackmailed his way into joining the X-Men. As a member of the team, he soon began to antagonize the other X-Men with his arrogant behavior and ended up expelled after a fight with Cyclops. He later realized his potential when he saved his teammates from the Super-Adaptoid, defeating the android by tricking it into trying to copy his artificial powers. This battle robbed him of his abilities, and he is left powerless but a better person. After the X-Men. Eventually he regained his powers, but they were enhanced to also absorb people's life forces, killing them. As the Beast tried to work out a solution, Calvin seemingly perished in a self-sacrificial fight against the Hulk after absorbing the Hulk's gamma radiation. For a long time the X-Men believed him to be dead. In actuality, Mimic was in a coma which lasted for years. This ended only when the regenerative mutant Wolverine came near him. Mimic's power copied Wolverine's healing ability and he woke up. Mimic's powers soon began to drain the life energy of those around him again. He fled to a remote Siberian village, where he soon encountered X-Force, who were investigating a distress call. X-Force arrived to find a number of dead scientists and an enraged Mimic, who illogically blamed X-Force for their deaths. During the fight, Mimic copied the power of Sunspot, and their identical charge caused a large explosion, after which Mimic was nowhere to be found. Mimic was later recruited by the entity Onslaught and his powers stabilized. Along with the Blob he confronted X-Force member Warpath, but with the assistance of Risque, Warpath was able to subdue them. Soon after, Onslaught himself was defeated and Operation Zero Tolerance imprisoned Mimic. Later, Excalibur tracked his telepathic signature and thinking that he was Professor Xavier, freed him. He was injured in this encounter and came to Muir Island to recover. Excalibur. Mimic became friends with Excalibur. He helps confront the threat of the misguided Pharaon, who confronted the team with the Crazy Gang and the Technet. Mimic attends Captain Britain's wedding. Mimic later joined Mystique's Brotherhood of Mutants and assisted in freeing the real Xavier. That group eventually disbanded, and Mimic was not among later groupings. Dark X-Men During the Dark Reign storyline, Mimic became a member of Norman Osborn's Dark X-Men team featured in Matt Fraction's Uncanny X-Men stint, where it was revealed that his unstable behavior was caused by his previously undiagnosed bipolar disorder, which is now being treated with medication. After Emma Frost and name a defect to the X-Men taking Cloak and Dagger with them, Rankin continues as a member of the Dark X-Men alongside former Brotherhood member Mystique, Weapon Omega, and Dark Beast as they try to capture Nate Grey during Osborn's reign. Green Goblin forces Mimic to mimic the powers of Weapon Omega and forces the two of them to siphon Nate Grey. They succeeded in neutralizing Nate Grey's powers at least temporarily. Wolverine's X-Men After Norman Osborn was taken down by the Avengers following the siege of Asgard, Mimic and Weapon Omega left HAMMER, where Weapon Omega's powers started acting up. Mimic went to Hank McCoy for help as he had been the only person who had always aided him when he needed help. Mimic took Weapon Omega to the Xavier Institute, where Beast found out that Weapon Omega was about to explode. The X-Men tried various ways to prevent the explosion. But in the end, the only way left outside of death was an induced artificial coma. Weapon Omega asked his only friend to do it and Mimic complied. Borrowing powers from Rachel Gray, Mimic put Weapon Omega to sleep, promising to stay by his side until he wakes up. After the ordeal, he asked Rogue if he could stay at the school, in which she agrees, noting that she thinks he is going to be a wonderful teacher. Following the Avengers vs. X-Men storyline, Mimic and Rogue were the only ones to respond to a prison riot at an unnamed prison. Although they were overpowered by the villains Griffin, Ice Master, Light Master, Quicksand, Ruby Thursday, Schizoid Man, Silk Fever, and Supercharger, Rogue and Mimic were able to stop the riot by copying the powers of Armadillo, Equinox, and Man-Bull. Powers and abilities: Mimic is able to copy the knowledge, skills, and powers of every individual within a certain range of him. Different sources list this as anywhere from several feet to a mile radius. In his first appearances, he needed to get within about 5 feet to initially copy someone's powers, but once he copied them he would retain the abilities so long as he was within several miles of them, even if he left that radius and then returned later. This was established shortly after he joined the X-Men, when Professor X had him fly in increasing circles using Angel's wings, and he flew beyond his copy range and the wings started to vanish, but they returned immediately when he turned back, but this has been retconned and changed several times. This applies to both superpowered and normal abilities, as shown when he duplicated Kitty Pryde's ninja training. He has shown the capacity to manifest numerous powers at the same time, and since he also absorbs knowledge, he can immediately use copied powers with the same skill level as the original owner. However, he occasionally shows difficulty in juggling multiple powers, and his body can be overloaded by absorbing too many at once. Usually the Mimic loses his duplicated abilities once out of range of the owner, but due to the length of time spent with them, his body permanently retains the powers of the original 5 X-Men: Angel, the Beast, Cyclops, Iceman and Marvel Girl. Thus, he has the powers of flight of Angel, the increased strength and agility of Beast, the optic blasts of Cyclops, the temperature manipulation of Iceman, and the telekinesis of Jean Grey. He partly retains Professor X's telepathic powers, which once caused his telepathic signature to be mistaken for that of Charles Xavier, although he was not shown to be located during more recent searches for Xavier. He may also retain Wolverine's recuperative abilities. Among the characters his powers have temporarily copied are Banshee, Marrow, Gambit, Rogue, Storm, Colossus, Nightcrawler, Shadowcat, Pharaon, Meggan, Kylon, Micromax, Marvel Girl, Wolfsbane, Pete Wisdom, Psylocke, Risque, Siren, Warpath, Sunspot, Cable, Caliban, Domino, Boom Boom, Richter, Cannonball, Shatterstar, Post, Blob, Mystique, Toad, members of the Crazy Gang, Weapon Omega, and numerous others. The original Mimic as created by Stan Lee and Werner Roth was not a mutant, but received his powers after breathing in some gas during an explosion in his father's laboratory. Later X-Men writer Scott Lobdell claimed it merely awakened and enhanced Mimic's latent mutant powers, but this point is never made in the comics themselves and remains a point of discussion. Other versions. Ultimate Marvel In the Ultimate Marvel universe, the Mimic is believed to be not a mutant but a prototype super soldier weapon that is being sold on the black market. The Mimic was a soldier who served in Afghanistan who volunteered for the project. He is shown to be transported by a terrorist cell in Bulgaria who were intercepted by the Ultimates. In the collision he is activated and released by the terrorists in the hope he engages the Ultimates. His powers go haywire as he comes into contact with Giant Man just as he reveals his admiration for Captain America and is consoled by Giant Man. Age of Apocalypse In the Age of Apocalypse, Calvin Rankin was a prisoner and test subject of the time-traveling Sugar Man, who had traveled back from Earth 616 in order to create a plague. Rankin died because of the Sugar Man's experiments. It is unknown if he had the copied powers of any mutants here. Civil War, House of M Mimic is one of the government agents sent to Genosha to kill Magneto and as many of his followers as possible. He and Nuke served as a distraction while Agent Barnes sneaked into Magneto's headquarters. He then engaged Magneto in battle. But despite all the mutant powers he manipulated simultaneously, he was ultimately defeated when Magneto used an inhibitor collar to disable Mimic's powers. The powers Mimic has copied are of Magneto's and some unnamed Genosians who possesses the abilities of hydrokinesis, flight, claws, optic blasts, cryokinesis, sharp fangs, pyrokinesis, and having multiple eyes. Exiles Mimic's heroic counterpart from a parallel world is a founding member of the multiverse-traveling superhero team called the Exiles. This Mimic has a clear mutant origin and his powers have a restriction: he can only copy a maximum of 5 mutant powers at a time. The copied abilities are about half as powerful as those of the original owners, and he is not able to copy knowledge or skill. For most of his appearances, he retains the powers of Wolverine, Colossus, Cyclops, and Beast. He is originally depicted with the feathered wings of Angel, but gives those up in order to briefly copy the Dark Phoenix's powers, and soon after mimics the abilities of North Star. In his reality, the Exiles Rankin joined the Brotherhood and was defeated by the X-Men. Abandoned by the Brotherhood, Mimic was imprisoned and was only freed by the intervention of Professor X, who invited him to join the X-Men. Mimic became a dedicated member. His abilities raised the morale of the team, as each member knew they were not alone in their powers, as Calvin could do exactly what they could. Eventually Calvin rose to become leader of the team, and helped make his world one where mutants, along with other heroes, are respected and treated with a level of fame and celebrity. Much like Wolverine, who in Rankin's reality is one of his closest friends, Rankin is fond of beer and music and has an unrequited love for Jean Grey. Rankin owns a chain of record stores and is a published author. Although Rankin is accustomed to leading, he defers leadership to Blink on the grounds that she is from a reality that is more removed from the mainstream universe than the other Exiles, and will therefore be able to make the judgment calls that their missions require without being potentially compromised by her connection to the counterparts of their opponents. Rankin also begins a romantic relationship with Blink. The Exiles' missions grow increasingly dangerous, and Mimic is forced to kill more than once to safeguard entire realities. Many of those he slays are alternate versions of heroes he knows as allies in his home reality, and their deaths weigh heavily on his mind, Mimic coming to increasingly resent how so many versions of the people he knows have been corrupted by their power. After an encounter with the sorcery of the vampiric Union Jack, Mimic is trapped for 4 years on an Earth overrun by the Brood. On this Earth, he is implanted with a brood egg. He returns to his teammates incubating an egg only held at bay by his acquired healing factor. The brood egg hatches during a moment of weakness, and the possessed Rankin is forced to attack his teammates, killing Mariko Yashida. Devastated by his actions, Mimic swears never to kill again. During an encounter with Weapon X, Mimic is forced to mimic Deadpool's healing factor in order to survive. Unfortunately for Mimic, the healing factor also comes with Deadpool's unique skin condition. the very sight of which instigated a conflict with Blink concerning their relationship. After swearing never to kill again, his subsequent hesitation to do so, further compounded by an illusion in which Blink claims to no longer love him, allows the villain Proteus to possess him when the Exiles visit the House of M version of the regular Marvel Universe. After Proteus leaves Mimic's burnt husk of a corpse, the Exiles put his body into stasis. Blink later takes him back to his home reality for burial. The Big M another alternate Mimic called the Big M was his world's greatest criminal and leader of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. With his team he slaughtered his reality's X-Men and committed numerous other crimes including mass murder until he was finally captured by the Avengers and sent to a high-security prison. He encounters the Exiles Mimic when the latter enters his dimension. Using his telepathy, the Big M reads the Exiles Mimic's mind and realizes that the only difference between the lives they led is that while one of them accepted Xavier's offer of training and help, the other rejected it and sought a more destructive path. He reforms and reinvents the Brotherhood as his world's X-Men. He retains the powers of Magneto, Professor X, Cannonball, Blink, and one unknown mutant. X-Men, Evolution In issue number 6 of the X-Men, Evolution comic book, Mimic befriends Spike but leaves the team due to his arrogance. His body apparently does not change in appearance when he copies powers. In other media. Television Mimic appears in the X-Men animated series in the beginning of the episode One Man's Worth. He appears as a member of the mutant resistance fighting a quadruped robot. He has the muscular body of the Beast and Angel's wings, and he shoots an optic blast, seemingly having the mutant powers of the original X-Men permanently. References. External links, Mimic at Marvel.com, Mimic at the Marvel Database, UncannyX-Men.net Spotlight on Mimic, UncannyX-Men.net Spotlight on Mimic.